Howdy, this is Rating Descending,
where we watch IMDb's Worst 250 so you don't have to.
My name is Abigail Ward.
And I'm Michelle St. Clair.
And tonight we are watching Jonah Hex. The US military makes a scarred bounty hunter with warrants on his own head an offer he cannot refuse. In exchange for his freedom, he must stop a terrorist who is ready to unleash hell on Earth. Let's watch. It's been a rough week.
Yeah.
It's been a very rough week. I've been a sad girl.
But we now know you 100% don't have lupus.
Exactly.
So that's good
Autoimmune
news.
Diseases are off the table.
Yeah.
I am not healthy, but long term, I won't have a chronic illness.
Yeah.
Which, is great. I guess. I just kind of miss the attention from the doctors being like, what's wrong with her? I loved it. It made me feel special.
You've
who's
still got
going to
attention.
validate me now?
I can.
Friends?
Yeah.
A partner?
Well, you need to find one.
I need to want one.
Yeah.
That's my problem.
You need to stop ghosting people whenever you catch some feelings.
Anyway, I'm healthy and happy now. Well, not happy. That's that's generous. I definitely don't have lupus. I am getting treated for whatever bacterial disease this is. And I've been doing lots of uni work. And now I have a newspaper subscription now, and I'm going to join a wine club, which really means that lockdown has turned me into a 78-year-old man.
Yeah. Which you always have been.
Yeah.
You always have been. Didn't you say you used to wear a fake beard and smoke a pipe in high school? You've always been.
Okay, wait. Saying that out of context sounds bizarre, but when you have context, it's still
the
bizarre.
same.
Yeah.
That's actually all of the context that you ever gave me.
It was a great joke. There'd be my history teacher, Mr. Hughes, and he'd be writing up something on the board, and there I'd be sitting there looking normal, and then he'd do something and turn back around, and I had a beard on.
Every time,
and that was hilarious.
Every time you've told me that story, I think about what it's like for the other students in the room, seeing you pull out a beard and
frantically pull it out of my
so
back
quickly.
It had this elastic string on it to keep it on my head, and I wore it so much that the string snapped.
Did your peers go, oh man, Abigail's got a good joke again? Or did they go, fuck, what a fucking nerd?
No, I think they were like, what a fucking weirdo. That chick that never talks to us has this one bit that only she thinks is funny, and the whole class has to watch. Why wasn't I more popular in high school?
Here's the thing. I've always pictured it as a grey beard. Was it grey or was it?
It was white.
It was white.
Santa's beard.
Okay, that's what I thought. I always thought it was an old white beard, but that classic paper thin backing with the.
It was paper thin backing. Yeah. Oh my God. How do you know it so well? You've lived this memory with me.
Yeah.
You've known me for too long.
It's because of your fantastic oral storytelling.
Thank you. So yes, I am becoming the 78-year-old man I was always destined to be. How are you?
Well, I mean, last time I was like, hey, I did a little bit of therapy, so that's pretty cool. Since then, I got up to the next stage of my Raspberry Pi in a PlayStation thing.
Yeah, I love how we're tracking the progress of that in this little podcast.
It went from going from concept stage to now I have almost all the components. I just have to figure out how to do the wiring in the case, but I've got it. I took off some of the shielding and twisted them together so that I could maneuver them.
Did you do the soldering that we talked about?
I haven't done the soldering yet. That's what's left. Because I have to make a custom circuit to have it so that my plan of when you press the button, the power supply turns off, and then supercapacitors are charged and send a shutdown signal to the Pi so I don't corrupt the SD card.
That's what I was going to say too, because I knew all of that as well.
Well, I didn't know.
It's very straightforward stuff.
I didn't know any of it until 2 weeks ago.
Well, yeah, you told me what soldering is, so every time you talk about this project, I'm like, have you soldered yet?
No, yeah.
Because it's the one term I understand.
Well, the semiconductor I need arrived, but the fucking transistors and the resistors haven't arrived yet.
There's transistors and resistors, man.
And
Valid parts of the community. Shout out to my transistors.
Thanks.
You're welcome. You're doing great.
Oh, thanks.
I'm the resister. Just resisting anyone trying to take care of me. Anyway.
Point being, I'm almost done with it at a base level. I still need to do the soldering, and also if I do the 3D printing of the brackets, I need to do that. But that's like a side thing. I can get it working without the brackets, so it's fine.
That's cool. You're a fucking nerd.
Yeah.
That's my input.
I've always been a nerd, but I tried to like pull away from it, being like, nah, but I play music and I like movies nah, fuck it. I fiddle around with
you like
circuits.
Nerd music and nerd movies.
That's true. I can't even deny that. Yeah, point being that's the main thing I'm doing, and it's still not done.
Yeah. Now, you might be feeling like this intro between us is a bit longer than usual, but that's because our movie this week was a bit shorter than usual. Let me tell you how. Jonah Hex was chaos.
It was.
But it was only 73 minutes of chaos.
It's 73 minutes. It's like half the length of some of the other movies we've watched.
If you look it up, they'll be like, it's an minute long film, but it was 73 minutes and then it was like 8 minutes of credits.
Yeah.
For all that special effect nonsense.
Yeah. It felt like it was a really long trailer for the movie.
Yeah. We
right?
watched it together in my bedroom and I got up being like, that felt short. And you were like, that did feel short. And I checked it. We saw 73 minutes and then we both just screamed.
It was like the first episode of the worst sci-fi original TV series that they've come out.
Yeah, it was 73 minutes of mayhem. I said this to you earlier. The film felt like a dream.
It did. It feels like a fever dream.
Yeah.
It plays like a fever dream too, especially the whole second half of it. It really goes off the rails a bit, as per the usual, without ever letting me go, man, this is really odd. It just kind of happened in front of me. And then I was like, wait, I realized now I lost track 20 minutes ago.
It's funny because it's such a flashy kind of film. You feel like there's a lot going on, but really it's a very simple narrative of like, you get Jonah's backstory and then Jonah in his world. And then they're like, hey, Jonah, you should come get rid of this guy. And he's like, yeah, okay, I'll do that. And then he goes through 1 or 2 steps to find Turnbull, almost dies, is revived, and then goes for the final battle. And that is why it's 73 minutes long.
Also, it's 73 minutes, so it's short. And I will say, there's like a 5 to 10 minute like intro sequence that tells his backstory. And then the midpoint of the movie is him doing the same things that happen in the backstory.
Exactly. It's
going
like this
to death.
weird reflection of his backstory, of his origin story, but we never saw the origin story in the first place. So now we're just rewatching a small plot point that was fed to us in the first 4 seconds.
It's incredible that in 73 minutes they repeat the same scenes several times.
I'll give you the overview of the story. So this is the overview. During Grant's presidency, Jonah Hex is a remorseless bounty hunter. In the Civil War, he was a rebel whose honor put him afoul of a Confederate general, Quentin Turnbull, who murdered Jonah's family while Jonah had to watch. As a result of the ordeal, his face is branded and disfigured, and after being rescued by a tribe of Native Americans, he is bestowed mystical powers that allow him to talk with the dead. This is all backstory.
Yeah.
Now we get to the story. After staging his own death, Turnbull, with a group of rebel Stuarts, hatches a plan to bring the Union to its knees. Grant wants Hex to stop it, and Hex, now knowing his family remain unavenged, can't refuse. Using his mystic powers, he gathers information about Turnbull's location. After a fight gone wrong, Hex is shot several times and nears death after a lucky escape. Once again falling on the grace of a local Native American tribe, Hex is revived once more. Back on his feet, he relays a message to Washington about Turnbull's plans to destroy the capital. The film's climax lies in a chaotic battle upon Turnbull's boat, docked in the harbor and ready to fire down terror upon the capital. Hex manages to kill Turnbull, destroy the ship, and get the damsel in distress, a sex worker named Lila. Grant rewards Jonah with a job offer as Sheriff of the United States. Jonah refuses, but assures the president that if they need him, they'll be able to find him.
That was almost in real time.
I think that was about 73 minutes long.
Fuck. I was more entertained by this movie than anything else because it was so stupid.
The sheriff, him being offered the sheriff of the United States was really the cherry on top of the chaos of this film.
It was literally just like a badge that said sheriff.
Yeah, but it was like bigger than most because
Yeah.
it's for all of the United States. And I think Jonah turns around being like, I don't think there is a sheriff of the United States. So just as well, a bit of backstory on this is that Jonah Hex is a DC comic. And the first comic came out in 1972, and I think it had a really decent run. And I think the last issue that he appeared in was like in 1999. So a very substantial DC character. But this is the thing that I really want to talk to you about.
So excited.
There's a couple of like, there's a lot of interesting trivia about this film and why this film kind of flopped. But I just need you to know straight off the bat, the original character of Jonah Hex in the comics could not revive the dead. That is something the directors and writers decided to add to the movie.
What?
Jonah Hex is just a bounty hunter. He can't revive the dead. That's not something he does. So a lot of Jonah Hex fans were like, holy shit, there's a Jonah Hex movie. And they went to go see it and were like, wait, what? Wait, what? Oh my God. Every review left by a Jonah Hex fan, they just say crushing disappointment.
That's so funny. Because one of the first things that I was going to say was that he doesn't use his power enough. I assumed he had more powers in the comics and that they were just like, didn't know how to incorporate it into the movie. What the fuck?
Yeah, what I love is that I feel like they were like, we need to make him more superhero-y, so let's give him a power. The original comics, in which he is a superhero in a way,
Yeah.
he didn't have that power. It was so unnecessary. It was just an insane addition that they made for no reason.
Is there any like director statement of why?
No, I did my research into this film and I looked up, so the director is Jimmy Hayward.
Okay.
And something very important to know about Jimmy Hayward is that he is not a live action director.
Right.
He's an animator for Pixar that has made one live action film, Jonah Hex, which was a flop. Everything else has been animated films that are either mixed to negative in response. So he's not really a director.
This is a great example of what also happened with Maleficent and Transcendence, where people who aren't directors get given the reins of a big, huge budget thing instead of it being given to any women.
Yeah.
Just frustrates me.
So I looked up Jimmy Hayward, the director, and like literally just typed in Jimmy Hayward, why can Jonah revive the dead? ? I was just like searching all these questions so I could find an interview with him where he can explain why he added this.
Yeah.
No explanation.
Oh my God.
No explanation. A lot of it was like, what was it like to work with Josh Brolin? What was it like getting John Malkovich on the set? Why did you give him a fake nose? John Malkovich wore a prosthetic nose.
But it doesn't even look that prosthetic.
No, it looks like John Malkovich.
The cast all the way is way too good for this movie.
It's a strong cast. You've got John Malkovich as the antagonist. You've got Josh Brolin, who's kind of giving it his all, I think.
Well, he's giving it his all that Josh Brolin does. It made me think of his performance in No Country for Old Men, which is good, but similarly, like, I'm just out here in the West trying to do stuff.
I
And I'm
mean,
like,
you can take the Josh Brolin out of Texas, but you can't take the Texas out of Josh Brolin, all right?
Yeah.
That's not his fault.
No, I know. I just mean, him doing his all and phoning it in look very similar.
Yeah, no, I get that. And I think the makeup that he had to wear for his whole disfigured face, he could only talk like this out of the corner of his mouth, lest he ruin the 3 hours of makeup he just sat through. So yeah, it's got a great cast. Josh Brolin, who, again, I do think is giving it some effort, because I did read that Josh Brolin, he didn't like the script at all when he first read it. And then he read it again and went, oh, wait, no, it's tongue-in-cheek. No, it wasn't. He was like, it's tongue-in-cheek. I love it. And apparently Josh Brolin called for 1 or 2 script revisions. And this is another key thing. Megan Fox, who plays Lila, the main love interest, she hated the script when she first read it too.
Of course she
because
would.
of the way it portrayed women in particular. She's like, this is misogynistic. And they were like, cool, okay, noted. And Josh Brolin was like, what if they rewrote it a bit? So they rewrote it a bit, and she was like, this is better. Which makes me think, how fucked was that first draft?
Yeah.
Because Lila is still just a prop for, like, the male gaze.
Yeah, I guess the fact that she's included in the action in the third act might be what the revisions are.
Yeah, no, they do the classic thing of, like, she's a strong, capable woman. Like, she's not going to let any man mess with her. That she has this client who, like, tries to literally attack her because he's like, I want you to be mine. And she's like, get out. And he comes back with, like, I think he has a gun or a knife. Yeah, he has her gun. And he, like, holds her up and then she stabs him. She kills him. And you're like, okay, she's a strong, independent woman who's also got a 20-inch waist and wears, like, stockings with garters so that in every shot she looks fucking flawless as Megan Fox does. I just need to know. I need to read that first script so badly.
Listeners, if any of you know how to get the first draft of Jonah Hex, please email it to readingdescending@gmail.com.
And also, again, tell us your favorite chew. We still want to know. What's your favorite chew?
Yeah, we heard a lot of people sided with me about pineapple lumps, but still no general chew-based trivia.
The me scolding pineapple lumps got the biggest reaction this podcast has ever gotten. I don't recant my opinion, but I don't mean to offend any of my loved ones.
Yeah, that's fair.
Except you,
What?
Michelle St. Clair.
Oh my god. You fucking hate me. I can't stop laughing in this one because this movie is just so stupid. It's so silly.
The whole process is so silly. So I loved doing research into this one just to see how things got so fucked along the way.
Yeah.
Because Jimmy Hayward was not meant to direct this film either.
What?
The people that were meant to direct this film were the screenwriters of the film, Neville Dean and Taylor.
So I asked you about them. Why do those names sound familiar?
Neville Dean and Taylor did Ghost Rider 2.
Oh, okay.
Let me just find... They did a couple of things. Ghost Rider 2 was the only big thing that I recognized. Oh, no, sorry. They did Crank.
Oh.
With Jason Statham and...
That's what it is.
It like, Crank was, like, quite well received.
Yeah.
Like, there was a couple of directors that really loved it. They said it was like an adrenaline rush of a film.
Yeah.
And it's about, like, a guy who gets poisoned and he needs to find out who the poisoner is before he dies. So it's like a real action-packed film. Then they did Crank 2, which was Crank High Voltage.
Yeah.
Which also got, like, mixed to positive reviews. So I feel like the producers were like, great, these are guys that have done 2 pretty decent action films. Let's get them on this.
Yeah.
So they wrote the script, which then Josh Brolin wanted to revise, and then Jimmy Hayward revised as well.
Oof.
And Neville Dean and Taylor stood down from the film.
So you're telling me that 2, like, relatively good but still total hack action directors looked at this script and went, no, it's too rubbish.
Well, they wrote the script. Neville Dean and Taylor were the screenwriters. They wrote the damn script.
Right, of course.
Yeah, they wrote the script. Later, so essentially they stood down from the project, and then later it came out that there was creative differences. Either way, that script went through a lot of different transitions. Jimmy Hayward got his
claws
sunk into the script and kind of ripped it apart even
greasy
further.
Cheeto fingers.
Something that I love about this film, so I read a quote, and hey, like, we can get into this later, but one of my favorite things that I read is that Josh Brolin admitted that the film became unsalvageable. In his own words, unsalvageable. And he said this was due to troubled production. Jimmy Hayward didn't have any experience dealing with live actors. And so there was a lot of chaos on set because he didn't know how to get the best out of the very good cast of people that he had. Yeah. He also didn't know how to conduct a shoot.
Why was he allowed to direct this movie?
I have no idea. He was an animator. And then he made one animated film. He directed it, which is so different from directing a live action film, especially because Pixar, even when you direct a Pixar film, as you and I both know, and as we were talking about after I watched this video by Michael Arndt, Pixar have their own screenings. So they make these like little like cartoon reels, and they look at the film before they actually animate the film. In terms of like, and like the script is done, there's voice actors that are there, and they have this like animated reel, and they can watch the film and see if it works.
Yeah, they do it almost in reverse.
Exactly. Which this guy got, in his little animated film. But I think he was probably stunned by being like, holy shit, I can't do that. Like, I have to get everything covered now.
Yeah.
He even said that his main issue on set is that he couldn't figure out how to get everything covered.
Oh my God. I can't believe his film school was Jonah Hex. No, you know what? I fucking hate this guy now.
I hate him too, because when I was reading his interviews, he also just sounded, this doesn't make someone a bad person, but it makes me resent them. He sounded boring. And he sounded like he didn't have a very interesting perspective or idea for this film.
Yeah.
It just seemed like he was probably a kid that liked comic books and is a very good animator.
That's not...
And somehow he's put in charge of a whole production with a really great cast of people.
Yeah.
Going into a bit more depth of the film, from what we can imagine from, as you say, this fever dream of a viewing experience, John Malkovich is the bad guy called Turnbull, and he has this right-hand man who's played by Michael Fassbender.
Yeah.
And Michael Fassbender did a lot of research into his role to try and make him like as maniacal and as like interesting as possible. Like, apparently everyone entered the film with really high expectations.
Oof.
and they were really positive. They were really excited for the film. Michael Fassbender based his role on the Clockwork Orange villain Alex DeLarge.
No.
And he also based his role on the Riddler. Like, he was probably like digging deep for this role.
Yeah.
So that's kind of tragic about the film. And then his death scene is so insignificant. Like, they built him up to be this incredible right-hand man. Like, Jonah Hex will never be able to bring him down. And then he kind of just, they have a little scuffle on the boat in the climax. And then he just kind of lifts him up to a propeller and shaves the back of his head off.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Well, he's like holding him and he's like, I'm gonna send you back to my wife. And then he's just smiling at him. It just didn't scan as anything. The only thing I thought was kind of cool in the movie is that after he kills him, he then grabs him, which revives him back to life, but he's in pain. And then like
he burns him up because he's died so recently that he burns up quicker.
Which is
more nonsense magic logic that they inserted into the film.
Complete gibberish. But I thought the idea of killing someone and then immediately being able to revive them was an interesting concept that in, any other movie could have been a kind of an interesting thing.
Yeah. Imagine if they had used this strange power that Jonah had more and better.
Yeah.
But they didn't.
Or explained it as anything other than he was revived from death by Native Americans, which is uncomfortable on a number of levels.
Yeah, I think I mentioned to you while we were watching it that I was sick of watching Native Americans in film perceived by white people.
Yeah.
It's always a white person's story where they encounter a tribe of Native Americans.
None of them are named.
No.
None of them are named. None of them have characters. They're all like in cloths.
Yeah, they're all like they're on like their teepees and in their classic outfits. You see them briefly. You barely see it. Like, it should be a big plot point that when he's on death's door in the middle of the film, he is revived again by a tribe of Native Americans. But it happens, and then suddenly we just cut to him riding back towards Turnbull.
Yeah.
It's like a flash.
They're even barely there for it. It's mostly him dying, fighting Turnbull in his death dream. And then he loses, but a crow flies out of his mouth.
The death dream was so good. The death dream was so funny because it's just him imagining killing Turnbull. And then in the final sequence, they literally splice his dream with the actual fight sequence. So it's just two different battles going on.
Which I didn't understand. Was he actually imagining it, or was it happening in an alternate death realm that both of them were occupying?
I don't know.
Was it just a metaphor? What was it? It also meant that I couldn't keep track of two different badly directed action scenes that were now being intercut together.
Also, can we approach... I don't find it feasible that Megan Fox's character would at all like Jonah Hex.
Oh, not even a little bit.
They established that she's like not an easy woman to win over, and then she's like, Jonah, I've been waiting for you. And you're like, why?
He's not nice to her.
No, he's not nice at all.
Yeah.
I don't understand what she's clinging to.
They also have no chemistry or romantic connection at all.
No. No. He like comes over and she's like, I've been waiting around for you. And he's like, well, I'm going to leave tomorrow. And she's like, oh, Jonah.
If anything, he's sort of like shooing her off,
Yeah.
which is weird to
And then
watch.
that makes it more ridiculous that Turnbull's like to his right-hand man, Fassbender, go get something of Jonah's that he loves. So he goes to Lila. Like, how did they know about his secret affair with
Yeah.
a sex worker that he only sees every couple of weeks?
Yeah.
Why do they think that she's that important to him when he obviously doesn't care about her? Why did they try and force a love story in these two characters that really, as you say, had no chemistry whatsoever?
It was unnecessary. I guess the only advantage of having a theoretical love story is we have the only female character present in the entire movie.
And it's Megan Fox looking sexy.
Her and the brief flashback we see of Josh Brolin's dead wife in
Who's
like
also
2 shots.
incredibly hot.
Yeah.
With, as you say, they put a filter over all the female characters.
Yeah.
Megan Fox's skin looked flawless, and then you see Josh Brolin's fucked up, mangled face, and then his dead wife's face has this weird filter on it to make her look like she's glowing.
Yeah, and they're not only the only 2 female characters, they're the only 2 women on screen at all at any point. There's not even in the background.
Yeah.
Also, how have we not talked about the fact that he's a Confederate?
We had many discussions about this. He's a Confederate soldier, and they try and explain it away when they introduce the one black character being like, I know you're not a bad guy.
I know.
And he's like, I ain't.
It makes my skin crawl that they got a black character to say to this white character, I forgive you for being a Confederate soldier who rebelled, but not because of anything to do with slavery or the Confederacy, just because he wanted to blow up a hospital of white people.
Yeah, he literally says, like, I know you're not a Confederate because you agree with slavery. You're just a Confederate because you don't like being told what to do by the Union. And I was like, such as not keeping slaves?
Well, because he's not just a Confederate, he is wearing his old Confederate uniform through the entire movie.
And it's gross. Dude,
It's
get a new
really-
outfit.
He's the president of the United States is talking to this man wearing a Confederate uniform.
Yeah. It was funny because he obviously had the Confederate symbol on his hat.
Yeah.
But I thought he was a Union soldier because I didn't want to believe that they would have a hero be a Confederate. But also I kept thinking about this shot in The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly where they see a legion of fucking Union soldiers approaching
Yeah.
them, but they think they're Confederates because they're covered in dust. And I was like, oh, he's just really dusty. He's still a good boy.
No.
No, mistook that entirely.
It was not necessary. Like, I can see how in the 70s, if you're making a gritty comic book, you think that's a rad idea for young teenage boys, but like, we're well past that. He does not need to be a Confederate. He shouldn't be a Confederate. I don't want to watch a movie about an angry Confederate killing people.
My journey watching the film is that you can't give anyone the benefit of the doubt, such as I did when I was like, maybe he's a Union soldier. You can't give anyone the benefit of the doubt because they're probably a Confederate.
Yeah.
That's what I think day in, day out.
I don't know, while watching it, it's not even like I was giggling the whole time, but like every time I think about any frame of this movie, I want to laugh. Such as in the first act where we see him doing, you know, a normal bounty hunt. And then when he realizes they're going to turn on him, he pulls out 2 machine guns, 2 Gatling guns attached to his horse.
Yeah.
Explodes the town.
I think we both knew we were in for a good time when just preceding that moment,
Yeah.
he rocks up and they're like, Jonah Hicks. And another man's like, Jonah Hicks.
No, the same man.
Oh, it's the same man, but 2 different shots of him saying Jonah Hicks. No.
He says,
No.
Jonah Hicks. Beat, beat, beat. Jonah Hicks.
Also, how have we not talked about the weird fireballs that they're going to use to destroy the Capitol?
The Dragon Balls? These glowing orange balls? Yeah, because they talk about, Turnbull is trying to find the pieces of a nation
super
killer.
weapon.
A super weapon that wasn't built during the Civil War. And then we find out it's artillery. Like, that's what the super weapon was. I agree, I guess, that it was very powerful in later wars.
Yeah.
But it was funny that it was just artillery. But specifically, artillery where you shoot like 6 iron balls that don't really need to hit anything, and then a last glowing orange Dragon Ball
Yeah.
that makes all of them explode.
So essentially, Turnbull's whole thing is that he robs a train to get that secret super component for the fireball.
Yeah.
And that's when Grant's like, oh my god, Turnbull robbed this train. He's going to do something bad. Let's get Jonah Hex. and then
Sure.
there's also a scene later where Turnbull is testing out his cool secret fireball, and he literally attacks a town in Georgia. They literally just throw it into a town.
Yeah.
And it eviscerates the entire town, and he's like, cool, we're ready. and then his plan is that from his boat he will fire the fireballs onto the White House, which we realized that for some reason the film geographically it dropped it right near a harbor,
Yeah.
which is not how Washington DC works.
The Potomac River is in DC, but it's not where they are, which they called Freedom Bay. No,
Independence Bay.
Is it really called Independence Bay?
I don't think so. I don't think there is an Independence Bay. I mean, it's a river.
Yeah.
You don't technically have bays in rivers. You have bays and harbors.
Yeah. That's what I thought. but
I
that's why I kept
wouldn't-
thinking it was by the sea.
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt that there was an Independence Bay near Boston, but I don't think there's one in Washington DC.
I mean, Americans do name everything quite on the nose.
Yeah, I'm sure there's an Independence, many things in Washington DC.
Yeah.
But
Well, was it? It was so confusing because they just referred to it as Independence Bay, and it looked like it was on the sea.
wasn't there also a place called Fort Resurrection?
Yeah, that was his base, was Fort Resurrection,
Yeah.
the most on-the-nose location.
Which means they are just making up place names.
Yeah, but there was the Washington Monument, clearly in shot.
But the Washington Monument is not by the river.
No, it's not. But
They've
but it is in DC,
Scrambled
which isn't by the sea.
DC. They've bent DC to their will for this film.
This is maybe like in the grand scheme of things, this is one of the lesser crimes of this movie, but both of us are so baffled by it.
Yeah, and I think we're such particular people.
Yeah.
We couldn't understand why they had the audacity to geographically change the capital of the United States.
Yeah.
Either way, he's gonna firebomb it with his fireball, and then climax, he fights, Jonah Hex fights Turnbull and lodges his head in a gear, and then the fireball drops on his head and explodes the boat while him and Megan Fox make a quick escape. And then it's all smiles from there.
The boat goes up in a huge flame.
And it's the classic
visible from miles away.
They jump out of shot. It's my favorite.
They 100% are fried. Putting aside, even if they get in the water, that water is boiling. The second they're above water, the flames would be so hot.
And guys, that's I think we've gone into more detail about the plot than we've had to, because that's kind of it.
This is currently half the length of the movie, this episode.
So we're at the point where Jonah Hex dies and is revived by another Native American tribe.
Because I know in the intro they say it was the Cree. Was it the Cree again, or was it just
I have no idea.
I guess they probably didn't tell us.
Yeah.
I will say his death also very underplayed, because he gets offhandedly shot by Michael Fassbender.
He's riddled with bullets. You see his chest, and he's literally got 20.
Those were his scars that Megan Fox is pointing out, wasn't it?
It looks like new bullet wounds in his chest.
Is he also super tough, or is that like another power of his, or is he just... What happened in this movie?
I also don't believe that as I said, Megan Fox likes him, and that a Native American tribe would save him.
Yeah.
If I was a Native American and I saw a white man dying, I'd be like,
certainly,
then perish.
Certainly that late in the game. By that point, no good's gonna come of it.
Why waste my freshly collected herbs on this bastard?
my green magpie
He's in
herbs.
a Confederate uniform. Let's save him. He's obviously very sympathetic and progressive.
The one black man forgave him. Who, I don't think he's... I don't know, the only other time that character is in the movie, apart from giving him gun crossbows, which I'm obsessed with.
Yeah.
Which were they? Crossbow guns. I kept saying, why didn't they make crossbow guns? Because isn't a gun already sort of a future crossbow? And your answer was to be sneaky, which I
Yeah.
thought was a fair answer.
It was meant to be, I was like, crossbows are silent.
Yeah, but then when he shoots them, they create explosions.
Yeah. And I was like, okay, scrap that.
Not sneaky. I can't talk about this movie without laughing.
There's so many delightful things. If you have 73 minutes to kill, don't waste it on this film.
I was going to say, so the black character gave him the gun crossbows, and then also was in the end being at DC, just smiling with his son. We just see him smiling with his son.
His two happy black sons.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, he's got twins. Yeah. Distinctive, isn't it?
Oh, I can't believe they fucking got a black guy to forgive him for being a Confederate. I'll never get over it.
Yeah, in 2010, they explained away.
This was from
Confederacy.
2010?
Yeah, this was a 2010 film.
Holy
yeah.
shit. Okay,
What year did you think it was?
2003. Because then I would have been like, oh, we knew a lot less in 2003. It was still not okay. But 2010, they should have known way better.
Yeah. Hey, do you want to guess how much this was made for?
I feel like it looks big budget, but also there's not much runtime, so maybe it's half the budget of a regular movie. 40 million.
47 million.
Oh,
You were so close.
Hey!
Guess how much it profited. Like, guess how much it grossed.
50.
11 million.
Oh,
11
no!
million.
Oh, no!
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, wow, that's a flop and a half.
Which also explains why Jimmy Hayward hasn't made anything for 7 years.
You don't give that guy another movie.
No. After this, he made another animated film and then kind of just drifted off into obscurity. I don't think he's even an animator for Pixar anymore.
Good.
Yeah, you deserve it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow,
It made $11 million, which is fucking nuts.
That's less than a quarter of its budget.
Yeah.
Let alone marketing.
It's just known as an absolute flop.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a critical and commercial failure. It didn't even make money to kind of like recompense for the fact that it's a shocking film. It's just a failure.
Yeah, I thought 50 because then it looks on paper like it made money, but when you take into account the studio funding and the marketing, it actually loses money. But that's just wow.
Yeah.
What are some other facts about it?
So here's some other facts about it that I had noted down because I thought they were funny. Megan Fox considers this to be her worst movie.
Wow, and I actually kind of like Megan Fox, and she's been in a lot of bad movies.
Great. She's a smart, interesting woman.
She is.
She's
100%.
too good for this film.
Yeah.
And also, another thing is that her corsets that she wore were tightened up to accentuate her 20-inch waist. But the thing is, a 20-inch waist, I was thinking about it, and 20 inches is tiny. I recall that around the turn of the century, so we're talking 1900, the peak waist size was often 17 inches.
Whoa.
If you were above 17 inches, you were fat.
Whoa.
Yeah. And Megan Fox in this, her tiny little waist is still around 19 or 20 inches.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Is that why you get actors like Lillian Gish, who was looked like a ghost?
I don't know who Lillian Gish is, but I'm going to say yes.
She's known as the grandmother of modern film acting. She was the first film actor instead of a stage actor. She acted.
Was she a silent actress or was she a
Oh yeah,
talkie?
I'm talking D.W. Griffiths,
Oh, okay, yeah, right.
early movies. She was the first person to go you need to act differently on film than on the stage. She's great.
That's cool. Yeah, she sounds like she's very much a screen presence.
She does look like a ghost though.
Yeah, no, and that's also why women notoriously would faint a lot.
Right.
Is because of how constrictive they're. They would literally deform their ribs and deform their bones and their spine because of how much they would lace up. But I just thought that was an interesting fact. I was like, Megan, if you watch the film, Megan Fox looks tiny and she's still technically bigger than what women were supposed to be 100 years ago. So think about that. Another fun fact that I thought you'd like, considering how much we both love Jimmy Hayward now, is that apparently on set, he wore a stylized cowboy hat and refused to take it off.
If you had just done the first bit, he wore a cowboy hat, I'd be like, what a fucking nerd. But he refused to take it off?
Yeah.
What a dickhead.
When they were talking about there was troubles throughout filming, I wonder how much of that was caused by his stupid cowboy hat.
Did everyone go, why does this animator insist on wearing a cowboy hat?
Yeah, that's some of my favorite fun facts about this script, but this film, sorry. But really my favorite things about it were what we mentioned, which was just the absolute fuckfest it was getting it from page to screen.
Yeah.
It fell apart entirely. And then we got 73 minutes of nonsense. Now, as for some reviews, I really enjoyed reading the reviews, mainly because a lot of critics, the main consensus was it's shocking, but luckily it's short.
I agree.
Yeah. So there's a couple of like standout reviews, I guess, but just as a general overview of the consensus on this film. On Rotten Tomatoes, it has an approval rating of 12%. And obviously, I didn't mention this at the beginning, sorry. On IMDb, it has a rating of 4.7. I should have mentioned that from the get-go.
Yeah. They've all had 4.7 so far.
Yeah, we're running through all the 4.7. So it's 4.7 on IMDb, but on Rotten Tomatoes, it is a solid 12%. The site's critical consensus reads, Josh Brolin gives it his best shot, but he can't keep the short, unfocused Jonah Hex from collapsing on the screen. On Metacritic, the film has a score of 33 out of 100, which I find generous. Very generous. Keith Phipps of the AV Club gave the film a rare F rating, stating that the 81 minutes, including credits, of Jonah Hex footage that made it to the screen looks like something assembled under a tight deadline and possibly also under the influence.
Yeah, 100%. It is a drunken alcoholic fever dream with half the normal amount of weeks of shooting.
Yes. And classic Roger Ebert gave it a negative review.
Yeah.
I don't actually know how many stars he gave it out of 4, but I anticipate it's probably a 1.
Yeah.
There was also a couple of standout reviews that I liked. So Jeff Beck from The Examiner said, a little too brief to get bored, but it's certainly long enough to get frustrated. Tom Huddleston from Time Out said, at 81 minutes with credits, I love how many people bring up how short it is. At 81 minutes with credits, Jonah Hex feels crude, lazy, and entirely perfunctory. And Mark Lee from the Daily Telegraph said, it's a loud and subtle as a sledgehammer assault on the senses, though at 81 minutes, mercifully short. And I think that's a great summary of Jonah Hex, the movie.
I gotta agree. Like, they say the sign of a bad movie is it's under 90 minutes. This is barely over 60.
Yeah.
It's not 85. It's 73 of actual content. That's awful.
Yeah. That is Jonah Hex, guys.
Well, okay, what's your rating then?
Oh, I still had a fun time watching it.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, like the cast was good, giving mediocre performances.
It's all of their
film.
worst.
Yes. Yeah, when I read it was Megan Fox's like worst film that she considers, I'm like, I think everyone's on the same page about that one. But I still had fun and we giggled a lot at how silly it was. And it wasn't boring, as they say. I wasn't bored to tears. And there wasn't a point where you thrashed your legs in absolute revulsion.
Well, that normally comes 30 minutes after.
But only had an extra 5 minutes in it. Maybe
Yeah,
we could have
exactly.
made it. I will give it a solid 4 out of 10.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have notably hated a lot of these movies. In particular, Meet the Blacks. I couldn't stand it, right? I almost
I feel like ever since we watched Meet the Blacks, you bring up how much you hated watching Meet the Blacks. That one's hurt you the most.
It has.
We both have our own wounds. You've got Meet the Blacks. I've got Zoolander too, all right? These are scars we will carry for life.
Well, I guess like with this movie, I almost want to rate it high in comparison, but I don't want to let it get into positive territory.
No.
But I did have the most fun watching it.
Hey, you can use the IMDb system and go into like points, you know?
That's true.
Yeah.
I had the most fun watching this one, but not for the reasons it wanted to be fun. I would watch this again with friends while drunk.
Yeah.
100%, especially because it's so short.
That's one of the first films we've said we would do that so far as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Every other film is like, let's erase this from our memories and drink to forget. But this one is like, let's drink to enjoy again.
Yeah. I think I want to rate it higher than New Moon, so I'm going to give it a 4.2.
Nice. That was Jonah Hex, guys. And
what's next week?
yeah, well, you're doing next week. So what is next week?
Oh, next week we're doing Alien vs. Predator Requiem. which I'm keen for as a big fan of Alien and someone who hates Predator. So I'm keen to see the worst of my favorite and the worst of my least favorite.
Sounds fun. Let's do it.
Ow! I'll cut before that noise.